Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset when it comes to faith, family, fitness, and food. Let's go. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
Hello and welcome to another episode of I Can Do podcast. I am Benjamin Lee. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening and supporting this podcast. I really appreciate it. Today I want you to think about 3 words. Just show up. Just show up. That's what I want you to be thinking about now and even as you go into 2020. This time of year is always challenging, isn't it? There's always some kind of party. There's some kind of get-together. They're really fun, too, by the way. We've been able to go to a couple of different functions as well. So I know that we all have lots of responsibilities, but we also have a responsibility to take care of our bodies. Our health is something that we should never take for granted. I'm sure you would agree with me as well, which is why we need to just show up. But it's not just during the holiday season. Really, it's any time. It's during the New Year's or spring break or summer vacations or after you get that job promotion, whatever the case may be. Even when life gets really challenging, even maybe there's a new addition to the family or maybe there's some kind of family crisis, we will have to just show up. Now, what do I mean by that phrase, just show up? Now, I'm so glad you asked, so let me explain it to you. What I mean by that, in particular, when it comes to our health, when it comes to exercise, we need to be sure that our exercise, that our health, that taking care of our bodies really becomes a normal habit, that it's just a part of our lives, even when our lives get really crazy. It can be really easy to work out when everything works out according to plan. But when you really think about it, when do things really work out exactly to plan all the time? They really don't. It doesn't happen like that. So we're going to have to just show up no matter what. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. I want to take you back to January 2017, not too long ago, a couple of years ago. Now, if you listen to my first podcast or my first episode of the podcast, then you know that I have a heart condition. I have an enlarged heart. It's called HCM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And I also have a implantable cardioverter defibrillator, ICD, which is where this podcast name has come from, I Can Do. So I'm on my second device. My first device lasted about 6 years, so I needed to get another device. So I had it put in December 29th, 2016. Now, during that time, I had been on a roll for about 4 months, working out consistently 6 days a week, typically about 25 to 35 minutes. I was really doing a lot of high-intensity interval training, which I really love, and I still do that even now. And typically when I do that kind of exercise, I sweat a lot anyway, so I would really be sweating when I perform those kinds of exercises throughout the week. But after getting my second device put in, I had to really take it easy for about a week. They didn't want you to get the place where they put it in wet and it was bandaged up and things like that. So they didn't want that getting wet or all sweaty and things like that. So what that required was really just kind of taking a week off. That was really hard for me. And if you have been consistent with your exercise program or routine, then I think you understand why that can be challenging. You don't really want to let up. You just want to keep going. So I didn't want to mess up my workout routine, but I didn't want to mess up this really expensive device or get anything infected. So I made sure that I listened to the physicians with what they wanted me to do. So what did that mean? Well, it meant I couldn't run, lift, bike, stuff like that. But I could do something. I could walk. I could walk really, really slowly so I wouldn't sweat. So that's what I did. And this is kind of like this just show up mentality or mindset that we have to have. So here's what I did. Each day during that first week, I was already getting up early. So I'd still get up at the same time between 4 and 5. I put my workout clothes on like I was going to get a regular workout in, and I put my running shoes on as well. I drove to the gym. At the time, it was only a few minutes from our house. I had my iPhone, I had my earbuds, and I cranked up the music in my earbuds, And then I turned on the treadmill, and I turned it on really, really fast. Okay, no, I didn't do that. I was walking at a pace of 1.5 miles per hour. So if you know anything about a treadmill, that is not fast at all. But I did that anyway because there was something about going to the gym, getting dressed, getting on the treadmill, and just moving. And so I couldn't do the other things, at least for a week. And somebody may be thinking, well, come on, it's only a week. But that was really a big deal. And I didn't want to lose that habit of consistently getting to the gym and working out. So I would walk and I would take my workout selfie at the end. There was no sweaty selfie because I wasn't really doing that much exercise. But I did show up. And even though I couldn't do much, I still could do something. That really made a big difference in my mind because it helped me to reinforce and to keep that habit of moving on a consistent basis. I kept this promise I'd made to myself that I wasn't going to go back to where I had started 4 months earlier. And while I may not have strengthened my biceps or triceps, I was able to strengthen my mindset in that process, doing that, because it really was challenging not to turn the treadmill up and not to move like I had been used to moving. But I was able to still do something. And that's really what I want you to think about, this idea of just show up. Now, you may not always be able to have an epic workout, but you still need to work out. Your schedule is going to get really busy, and you already know that, right? Especially now, but even in January and February, it's going to get busy as well. So you have to make time for your exercise, for your fitness, for your health. And it may just be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but it's the idea that you still have to show up. You have to get to the gym. You have to go for that jog. You have to get on that Peloton bike. You have to move. It can be very easy to say to yourself, and I can do this as well, what's the point of doing something for even a few minutes? It's not going to really make a big difference, right? Well, don't believe that at all. It will make a big difference because as soon as we fail to show up one time, you know what's going to happen? It becomes a lot easier not to show up the next day and the next day after that. So I've seen some things on Instagram where people have posted, I showed up, and I really like that. And so this is where this idea of just show up has come from. And just looking back at my life as well, I had a blood clot in 2014. That was really challenging. That was in my right coronary artery. So I had to start all over again, and I had to go to cardiac rehab for a long period of time. It was basically like getting another defibrillator. I was on the treadmill, walking 1 or 1.5 miles per hour, starting all over again with 2.5 and 5 pound dumbbells. But it was still the idea that I showed up, that I got there, that I accomplished it, that I did do something, that I followed through with what I said I was going to do. So that's the mindset that I want you to be thinking about. This is the I can do kind of mindset. We have to show up and we have to follow through. Now, maybe someone's listening to this, you haven't really even begun to exercise. That's okay. This mindset will still work for you as well. Maybe what showing up means for you, maybe it just means you put your shoes on and you walk to the mailbox and get the mail. And then the next day you walk around the block. That's the idea of showing up, where you have to do something. You have to take those initial steps. Maybe it's driving to the gym and just working out for 5 or 10 minutes and then going home. That will slowly build up over time. It's the idea of creating these habits that will help you to continue to show up on a regular basis. So if you want to do this, prepare yourself. Put yourself in the best possible position. Have your clothes laid out the night before. Have your shoes ready. Write down when you're going to go, what you're going to do, and for how long. Then follow through. Just show up. This is how you and I will be successful. And so just show up. You can show up to those parties, to work, to a variety of other functions. Be sure that you show up and invest that time in your fitness and in your health. So today, as this podcast comes to an end, I want you to ask yourself a question. Did I show up today? If not, why not? If there's still time, will you show up? This is how you and I will accomplish our goals. Just show up. Thank you for tuning in. If you can, do me a quick favor and leave me a review and a 5-star rating. I would really appreciate it. And remember, I can do, and so can you.